It's a big week in Disneyland Construction. The Mark Twain is back in the water, and you know what that means. And that's just the beginning of the new changes found at the Haunted Mansion. Plus, news from the Matterhorn, Tianas, Grizzly River Run, and of course lots more. But first, something I've been dying to say for a very long time. Let's get on the Mark Twain and check out the Haunted Mansion construction. Let's just enjoy the Mark Twain for a minute before we get into the real business of this trip. It has been a joy to be back on the Mark Twain. I've taken 6 tours already around the rivers of America. This footage was actually on our first trip last Wednesday. And I was really pleased to see that the views are pretty good from the top deck of the Mark Twain. They're pretty good. You can see over the wall. You kind of have to look through these trees a little bit. But once you get a clean line of sight, it's pretty telling. This is with a phone. I'll be shooting with Grandpa later. But there you can see that is the courtyard right there. We'll have to pause it because this thing keeps moving. But you can see, obviously, the total clearing of that site. This is about what I was expecting to look like. Nothing but dirt still. But the size of the machinery there, the heavy equipment being used, is very telling about how big this job is. Sliding to the right, this is where things get a little interesting. That wall right there, that red brick wall, that's the one we've been watching from Tom Sawyer Island. That's the entrance, the separation from the front queue to the rear queue exterior. And there's a giant piece of steel just laying there out in the front part of the queue. That's about where the entrance, the threshold, would be. Take a good look at that and then just remember, because it's kind of interesting what's happening in that situation. We'll keep moving. Man, it is just incredible how much they're doing. But this is really the part that, this is the best view we're getting, the cleanest view, and it's of the front queue. The front queue has been totally cleared as well. It's all dirt. Everything is gone. We thought it was just going to be the rear queue. Everything is gone in the front queue. On Saturday, with Grandpa, rainy day, very early in the morning when we started shooting this, and we're getting the views are pretty good here from the Mark Twain, I have to say. Right there, you're looking at, that's the Disneyland Railroad. That fence back there is the Disneyland Railroad where the ADA fence is, and this view is the courtyard where the fountain would be. Obscured by trees, of course, but once we get a line of sight here, it's actually not bad. There's that giant blue Malcolm drill that has been on site for quite a while. In fact, there's all kinds of brands being referenced here. I see 5 different brands of heavy equipment doing a lot of really big work, but we're going to stop right here real quick because we need to. Unfortunately, the Mark Twain doesn't allow us to pause and shoot for a while, so we're going to have to pause ourselves in post. But there's one of those auger drill bits there in the left third of frame, and you can see another one in the very right side of the frame. We're going to be looking at that one again in a little bit. But to give you some perspective about where we're at, there's the brick wall that separates the front part of the exterior queue from the back part. We've been watching that one, seeing how long that'll last. It's still up. The red arrow is still on there, but the wall is still standing. Behind that bit, that auger bit, is what looks to be a very large hole. They have dug deep, and I would assume that is where they're going to be, well, at least part of the, construction of the elevator, the ADA elevator. Again, to give you reference about what we're looking at, that fence that you're seeing there, pretty sure it's that fence. And where that hole is presently is about where that bobcat is. Behind the mausoleum wall, with the one with the red paint, you guys remember that when we first started seeing the demo? Where that bobcat is approximately where the old Fast Pass station used to be, where you'd get your Fast Passes. That looks to be about where that bit is and where the hole is. Also note this giant piece of steel here and its location. That is that was the fence that would separate the Haunted Mansion from the courtyard. That's approximately where the fence would have been. You can kind of see that low brick wall way down there in the edge of the frame. That's where that first extended queue, as the queue would leave the threshold and go outside of the Haunted Mansion, it would first go up and run parallel with that brick wall. So just again, to give you a little perspective of what we're looking at, where we are in space, there used to be that short brick wall is still there, and then a fence, the wrought iron fence that separated the Haunted Mansion from the courtyard. So yes, that does, if you were to envision that, that does sort of reconcile with where that hole is, being where the old Fast Pass, oh my God, that beautiful Fast Pass station that used to be back there. Hopefully they've got bigger and more beautiful plans ahead. But there's very, very little left of the old Haunted Mansion queue out here. The scope of this project, as we mentioned last week, is much greater than I thought it would be. And we'll keep riding the Mark Twain, and we'll stop again here. Now we're looking at the first exterior queue, where guests make that walk up towards the ghost coach, and then make a U-turn and head back in. The green tarp is about where the pet cemetery would be. That's the brick wall that would separate the rear from the front exterior queue and the pet cemetery. And then in front of that red mesh is that first walkway up. Just see copious amounts of dirt in that rear queue, and you can kind of see where the hole is starting to develop. And you can also see, this was noted last week. I couldn't see it the first time I looked at the footage, but they've planted an I-beam right there. That's steel that has been buried into the ground. That's what the auger bit was for. The auger drill was creating the hole to put that piece of steel in. Now, its location's interesting because it's not, that's in the queue proper. It's not the mausoleum, you know, the old, where that door was. It's forward of that. Relationally speaking, to my eyes, it looks like it's right as you cross through the two columns, the two red brick columns, right? So why are they digging and placing steel there? I don't know. Does that not look like it's, because I know it's difficult sometimes. Depth perception is tricky from these perspectives often, and it's, you know, we're so used to seeing things a certain way. But that looks like it's in the proper exterior queue, the rear queue. The forward part of that queue even, not even the rear part. And then we'll keep taking a trip down the Mark Twain to stop in front of the Haunted Mansion proper, and the destruction continues here as well. All of this is gone. Everything is gone. Everything, you guys, is gone. Everything. Just about. Except for that one red brick wall that had the actual identifiers saying that we're going to move this. That's the only thing that remains standing. Even where we're looking now, we should be seeing in the far left of that frame the two brick columns that create the entry, the actual threshold into the queue space for the Haunted Mansion. That iconic entry is gone. I observed this last week, and I wasn't sure if my eyes were seeing things correctly. As a matter of fact, we had some over-the-wall footage or photographs taken last week by the Fresh Baked Street team, and in this photo you can see there's the right column. The right column here is still there, but the left column is definitely gone, obviously. But that right column is gone now as well. They have completely obliterated that whole queue. It's gone. It's gone. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that steel is for. That's a big piece of steel, you guys. 2 pieces even. Those are big. What are those for? Then here's a long view. This is taken from about where the gift shop is going to wind up being, the exit. This is the exit of the Haunted Mansion, looking back towards the entrance. Another indication of just how extensive the demo has been. So that's the Haunted Mansion. From here, we'll cleanse the timeline with shots of Chris Provost of Provost Park Past waving at us and doing a little dance. I love Chris. Chris is the best. He is the most friendly, excitable fellow you'll ever meet. He's the best. Oh, and I guess we'll take a look at Tianas Bayou Adventure while we're up here as well. That's a lot of concrete, you guys, that they have installed over here. This is great being back in the Mark Twain, I gotta say. That's a lot of concrete. They have really done a lot of work here creating something. This is something that did not exist before. Not even close. Look at that. That's the, you know what that is? That's the Critter Country sign, isn't it? Those concrete whatevers are for the Critter Country sign. Can we go back? Yeah, that's the sign right there. See that? That's... Ay, ay, ay. Again, it gives you a sense of where ground level is or was. They have... Everything behind that wall that used to exist, the wrought iron fence, is gone here as well. Disneyland is going to look different in 2025, no doubt about it. Let's get back to the Haunted Mansion on the ground. And at first, I didn't understand what was happening peripherally. I thought this looks different, and it is, because they have now closed off the top path that takes you through New Orleans Square. These walls used to stop right here where that brick wall is. You would be able to cross that path, but the walls would stop there, and it was only covering the courtyard. It has now moved past the courtyard and consumed, the walls have, and the construction and demo have consumed the entire pathway, the approach to the Haunted Mansion. So now you can only pass it on the lower path, the one that runs along the rivers of America. In fact, we could sort of go this direction, which I am now. There's the steps down to the lower path. And you can see the churro cart. Oh, no, sorry, that's the popcorn cart. That popcorn cart has been moved. That is not its usual. It should be right here, right? That's normally where the popcorn cart would be, right there. And then behind that is the churro cart. Now, that churro cart is about where it normally would be found. So just to kind of, I mean, you can now envision, you can imagine that a whole pathway is gone behind that fence. Also note, it's a dead end. There's the only way, over there. So if you come to get a churro, you got to go in there and then walk your way back out again. It's a dead end now on that upper half, the upper walkway. Now we're looking from the lower walkway. This is the only way to Critter Country now. You have to walk alongside the Harbor Galley. And the walls have now come all the way out here too. Last week we observed that it looked like they were ready to start working on the gift shop, because they took all the merch, the ODV carts out there at the gift shop, and that has in fact happened this week. Right behind that door is the exit to the Haunted Mansion, and right behind that, just literally on the other side of that wall, this is approximately the same view you're going to have. That's what you're going to see, is that gift shop. By the way, we should note, the Columbia is now in wet dock, and it looks like they're doing some work on that as well. So just in time for the Mark Twain to go offline, or back online, the Columbia looks to be offline. She'll be closed until Friday, March 8th, back on the water March 9th, according to the Disneyland refurb calendar. Speaking of attractions that are going through some things, the Matterhorn, although that seems to be over. It was closed unexpectedly for a few days, like all day. People were wondering what's going on with the Matterhorn. Should we be concerned? And for a minute, I was. But as of this recording, Matterhorn was fully operational. Everything looks good, so you don't like to see the Matterhorn go down for a day, let alone 2 or 3. But I'm happy to report she's fully operational and lovely as ever. Also fully operational is Grizzly River Run. That is back online as of this recording as well. Boats in the river, although they are still working on the locker section. That's still behind construction walls where you get your temporary lockers for this attraction. But otherwise, the ride is up and running. As a matter of fact, we got to enjoy this with some friends during the Food and Wine Festival on Friday. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming here at the top of the Adventureland Treehouse to look at Tianas Bayou Adventure. Again, this was a rainy day when I filmed this, so there weren't a lot of crew visible outside the mountain. So actually, this looks very much like it has for the past few weeks. I'm not seeing a lot of development, but I do think we're going to start seeing color added and then the vegetation. Meanwhile, on the ground, out in front of the mountain, hill, salt mine, looks like the water wheel is progressing. They've got the full wood detail now for that section, which looks nearly complete. And I'm trying to figure out, oh, I thought that was scaffolding at first, but it's steel. That's structure. So they're going to be putting on a new surface, a new facade to that barn. Cool. Meanwhile, looking to see if there's any chance we can find some vegetation growing on the Tiana Foods water tower, but I see none. They've actually closed up the holes. Well, they're starting to anyway. There's the mesh now. These were wide open before, so they must be done with whatever it is that they were doing on those holes on the flume, on this part of the flume track. So getting ready to fill that up again. Progress. No action. And no progress visible anyway on the front side of the mountain. By the way, while I was here, at the top of the hill, you can look back towards Haunted Mansion and get a decent view as well, where we can see, again, the red brick walls and the columns and a huge mound of dirt and heavy equipment. Little action here as well from the ground by the briar patch. The entrance is still covered by scrim and scaffold. There was no work happening while we were there. But we do have an update from Slip and Falls. We've been waiting to see what they're doing here, and for a long while there was no progress. We thought maybe they were going to close this area up, and it looks pretty standard from here, but when I moved back a little bit further, that, my friends, is steel. It was wood. There was wood at the top going over the track, over the flume track, but now that is steel. They are definitely closing that up now. That is steel, not wood. So now we can say for sure, I got to think that that's the goal here, is to close that part of the track up. That's going to become the new mystery. The big mystery so far at Tiana's Bayou Adventure is, what are they doing with Slip and Falls? Why are they closing up that part of the track? Stay tuned to Fresh Bake, because we're going to be here every week looking for those updates. In the meantime, we'll go back down to Main Street to check in on City Hall. Still behind Scrim and Scaffold as well. As such, we can't really tell how far along things are, if they're making progress. But I got to feel like they got to be getting kind of close, at least, right? Here's something that I love. They put up a new sign out here in front of the fire station, talking about a little bit about the history of this structure, noting that it was one of the very first buildings built when Disneyland was being constructed. No updates either from Lost and Found, lockers, and the restrooms out here in the Esplanade. Astro Orbiter. More parts have arrived. Here's how it looked last week. Here's how it looks this week in comparison. We have another delay. Astro Orbiter is now opening March 22nd now. March 22nd. No longer winter. We can no longer say that. It is now opening spring of 2024. We are now approaching Finding Nemo territory. They have actually, though, installed scaffolding. You can see scaffolding poking out over the top of those walls, which suggests to me that they're putting in ride vehicles. That's what's being installed now, are the ride vehicles, I'm guessing. I don't know if you need scaffolding for that, but I can't think of any other reason why they would put them there. Let's go to the monorail.
Hello everyone. Welcome aboard the Disneyland Monorail. We are now beginning a 2.5-mile journey to downtown Disney Station and back. For a safe trek, remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the cabin. Be sure to watch your children, and no smoking, please. You are riding aboard the Mark 7, the latest generation of Disneyland monorails. When Walt Disney introduced this attraction in 1959, it was the first daily operating monorail system in the Western Hemisphere. Just ahead is...
I'm going to stop here real quick because I want to see... This might be... if we stop it right here in between those two sections of trees, is this a possibility to see construction of Earl Sandwich? I think eventually when it starts going vertical, we'll be able to see it, but we won't be able to see any of the foundation work. What you're seeing there in the rear of the building on this site that's clearly visible, that's where they're going to be putting the trash compactor. That will not be Earl Sandwich. That's just backstage stuff. Meanwhile, there we go. Now we're getting ready. It's the color of the sheathing, the same color that we've seen on the sheathing putting on facades, but that's going to be the bottom, obviously, of that building. Meanwhile, concrete work is done at the entrance. Man, it's pouring. The concrete work is done at the entrance. Oops. I guess that's that. And the entrance sign is still there. Again, I'm still expecting that structure, that arch, to be replaced by a new structure. Look at Din Tai Fung. This has reached another level of progress. Where there was sheathing before, now there's color. It's no longer steel. It is now getting its facade. It's now getting its first layer of texture. I don't think that's going to be the final form. But we've moved past sheathing and steel. There's some sheathing there still. So that's going to progress to that next level in the coming weeks. And as we pan left, this is I've been ignoring this for a long time, but that shade structure right there, that's going to be the entrance from, the Simba parking lot. That has not progressed at all in months. I'd be curious to find out why that might be. Centrico, about as we found it in the past. Paseo, moving along. We've got some crew up there working as we record this. And there you can see the spiral staircase being installed from this angle as well. That's moving along. That's getting closer to completion. Quick stop back over at DCA to show you that the scrim and scaffolding is down at the restrooms at Grizzly Peak. The walls are still up, but the scaffolding and scrim are down. Walls and scrim still up at Humphreys. And with that, we'll head over to Walt Disney World, starting with the Polynesian Hotel's DVC tower. This footage, as always, thanks to Sean Liston. You can find him at Adventureland_Dad. Thank you very much, Sean, for this outstanding footage, as always. We're starting to see a little color there coming up on those facades. It's not just stone and steel. Staying at this resort, any one of these resorts adjacent to the Magic Kingdom, must be so delightful. I would really love one of these days soon to stay at the Polynesian or the Contemporary, any one of those, where you take the monorail through them. I think that would be fantastic. We'll go to the Magic Kingdom next to check in on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We've got some construction work happening. I feel like we're seeing less scaffolding than we have in the past. I feel like more and more this mountain is being revealed as complete. Got a lot of boats in the water here in the flume track. No water and they're not moving, but they're there. And I've seen reports, as a matter of fact, here it is, that they have upgraded this part of the attraction from Briar Patch to Swamp. There's the drop right here. And then the boats make that circle, that U-turn in the water there. That's the track. But behind that is now filled with water. This photo was taken by WDW News Today. And that looks, I have to say, that looks great. I like how they are creating or completing the illusion I'm more convinced now than ever that this is a swamp and not Splash Mountain. That is very convincing, if you ask me. The water makes all the difference. By the way, for those of you who are looking for frogs for this Princess and the Frog themed attraction, because some have bemoaned the lack of frogs, there you go. There's two right there. They're unpainted. They're white and blue at the moment. But those are two frogs that I believe this is not the only place you'll find those frogs, but there you go. We got frogs, and there will probably be more theming elements added to this as this project winds down. But let's finish off our tour. There's a look at that drop, but a little closer up. We're probably on that bridge now. I mean, it looks swampy. It's difficult to put you like literally there because there's obviously far more trees and vegetation growing in a true bayou. They're doing the best they can. I think it's great. I keep saying this every week, and nothing is deterring me that each update that we get looks more and more appealing to me. Not sure what I think. Oh, you know what he's doing? He's disassembling scaffolding. Cool. I mean, that's a good sign, you guys. That's a great sign. Waiting for concrete here. Situation normal. Oh, they've got scaffolding back up at that area where we were watching them build something a few weeks ago. Scaffolding has arrived here. Oh, here we go. We got another construction worker. He is adding little... Oh, that's so wonderful. Just little decorative touches to that tree. That's wonderful. Then we'll get our look at the queue. The exterior extended queue for Tianas from the train. Looks about as we left it last week. And then we'll end at Epcot. Take a look at the current status of Communicore Plaza. Incremental updates from last week. They're a little further along in applying that Epcot or the Spaceship Earth textures. Looks like they're getting ready to apply something there. Epcot is great. Epcot is great. What is this? I need somebody to tell me what this is. I don't know what they're building here, but it looks quite involved. There's a path that they're building here. Is this going to be landscaped? What is that? Well, there you go, guys. That is our update from around the parks here at the Disneyland Resort and at Magic Kingdom or at Walt Disney World. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. You can then follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. Until next time, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked.